Hundreds of thousands of people marched in Washington and around the country this weekend to push for tougher gun laws. Will the student-led March for Our Lives motivate Congress to take action? Our Politics Monday team is here to weigh in. That's Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report and Tamara Keith of NPR. And welcome to both of you, Politics Monday. So I know you, as I did, watched at least some of this extraordinary outpouring on Saturday, Amy. We've talked about guns time and again in this country. Is this going to make any difference with the people who make decisions in Congress and elsewhere?
So I think it's pretty clear that if we're talking about this Congress at this time, we're almost definitely not going to see anything. That was a hard thing to get out. We're not going to see anything happening in this Congress at this time. Is this going to be an issue going forward for the midterm elections as a more powerful motivator for voters? Potentially, especially when we think about where the battleground for House control is in 2018. It's in the suburbs, and I think this issue has always played to the benefit of Democrats, or to people who want to see more controls on guns, more restrictions on guns, but maybe even more of a forefront. I think the real issue, though, Judy, is it comes to the issue of enthusiasm. And this is what we saw at the march, whether it was in Washington or in towns and cities across America, this intensity and enthusiasm from younger voters to get out, make their voices heard, and also say that they're interested in voting in this election. Even before this march, when the Pew Research Organization, they asked younger voters how likely they were, how interested they were to vote, 62% said they were very interested to vote, or at least they were interested in the midterm elections. Compare that to 2010, when it was 39%. So that level of enthusiasm and intensity is a big problem for Republicans, because younger voters are also the people who dislike the president more than almost any other demographic group.
You're nodding your head.
Right. Those marches were about guns, but they were also sort of an embodiment of the energy that exists on the left and the energy that exists among young people. And the other thing to point out is that there were a whole lot of people out at those events all over the country registering people to vote. And so, as Amy says, there's not really a legislative path right now in Congress for gun control legislation of the likes that the folks at these rallies were calling for. There were some small items that were put into that big omnibus spending bill that Congress just passed and the president signed. And the White House was today basically saying, we've done this, mission accomplished. And that big spending bill was likely the last major train out of the station for legislation in Congress this year.
Some tightening of the background check process.
But it doesn't expand background checks.
And the bump stocks, which the White House.
And it certainly doesn't address the kinds of guns that people can buy, which was really a major piece of the rally and the speakers at those rallies.
The other thing we had going on, separate from this, but we are talking about the spending bill, Amy, is a lot of drama around whether the president was going to sign that huge, mega piece of legislation, $1.3 trillion. We can barely conceive of it. What was all that about?
I think it was about the fact that the president saw a negative reaction coming from conservative commentators, specifically conservative commentators on television, who were saying, whoa, wait a minute, I thought we elected the great negotiator. I thought we were getting somebody who was going to reduce the size of government and was going to get the wall built and was going to make sure that he got the best deals in this bill. Instead, it looks like he got rolled. He got rolled by Democrats and by his own party. And that is the real danger for Republicans going into this midterm election, that what the president does when he's confronted is he says, oh, no, this isn't about me. This isn't my fault. This is congressional leaders and even his own leadership. He's willing to throw under the bus to protect his own brand at the expense of his party. They're the ones up for re-election in 2018. He's not.
Yeah, right. And so 4.5 hours after all of the suspense began, the president admitted that he had signed the bill and then expressed frustration with basically the separation of powers and the way Congress works and the whole concept of negotiation, that they had to give things up to get what they wanted. And he called for an end to the line item veto, which that would be, or he wants a line item veto. That would be unconstitutional and is not going to happen. And other changes that are simply not going to happen.
So, Tam, Amy mentioned dangers to the president. The other thing that we've just been talking about, of course, is these 3 lawsuits by women who allege they've had some sort of either affair with the president, or in the case of this woman on The Apprentice, that the president defamed her by saying she lied about his groping her. How much political jeopardy does this represent for the president?
It's a good question, and it's not clear in terms of polling that these cases are really registering with his base in any significant way. There was some Pew polling that looked at white evangelical voters who supported him overwhelmingly in the election, and they knew what they were getting. The Access Hollywood video had already come out. In January, when this story first broke, there was a little dip in his support, but he's back up in mid-March to 78% support among white evangelicals. So it's not clear that it's registering with the people who support the president.
I would also argue that his bigger legal challenge right now is the fact that his legal team around him continues to be in disarray, either people coming or going, or he's firing or whatever. While he's going into a critical moment in this Mueller investigation, he's saying out loud, sure, I'll get interviewed. Sure, I'll sit down with Mueller. When you know his team is not particularly excited about this idea, and this sort of winging it on something as critical as sitting down with the special counsel seems to be, to me, the most problematic piece for his legal standing right now. The jeopardies.
Because the law, as we just heard our guest, who's a former federal prosecutor, say, Tam, the concern may come with discovery, with the Summer Zervos.
Exactly. With her case, that they could ultimately get a deposition with the President of the United States, among many things. And President Trump, I've been reading a lot of his depositions today for some work I'm doing at NPR.
Really?
I have, going back a number of years. And
you mean he was involved in other legal cases?
Well, of course.
A lot of them.
Thousands of them, in fact. Yes. And in some of the cases where he's been deposed, there are some themes that come out, including sort of a lack of preparation and a lack of really paying attention to details.
We will look for that report. Tamara Keith, Amy Walter, Politics Monday. Thank you both.
Thank you, Judy.